Welcome, everybody.
We are live.
My name is Jason Aponte.
I am Andrew Pasquini.
We're working. That's it. We're working over here. That's it. Let's go Niners.
Let's go Niners.
Sprint Ride Option Podcast.
Oh my goodness. It is a new episode of the Sprint Ride Option Podcast. I am Andrew Pasquini, joined as always by Jason Aponte. Jason Aponte, the home run derby is going on right now. Julio Rodriguez just hit 32 home runs. Beautiful, beautiful things going on in baseball. But we're here to talk football. Jason, how are you doing today on this lovely Monday evening?
I'm good. I'm glad everybody's joining the home run derby. What I do want to say is wrap it up in a timely fashion. 10 p.m. is where the real magic starts. Have your little fun now with your little baseball home runs. Tonight, it really goes down. There's someone on my shoulder that you see there that is who I'm talking about. So enjoy your little home run derby. You know, it's a fun little part of the game, but the real game starts tonight at 10 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Pacific time on ESPN.
For a second there, I thought you were teasing the celebrity softball game, and I'm just like, wow, we're really into it. Okay, and then I remembered the Jeter thing, which is Jeter. I'm very excited for you. I'm excited to watch it. I think it's on ESPN Plus, right? It drops at 7 p.m. tonight. Is that what that is?
Yeah, so I guess if ESPN starts it whenever they start it, if you actually want to watch it at 10, you can watch it on ESPN Plus. Look, I'm joking, man. I'm going to be sitting here watching it, but, you know, watch it whenever you can. There's going to be 7 parts of it, and you can watch it whenever it is, but yeah. You know, that's what's going on.
Exciting time for Yankees fans. Best team in baseball, and they're getting their own little – I mean, I'm assuming the comparison is The Last Dance, right?
Well, The Last Dance doesn't have 7 episodes also, by the way.
True.
And this is just about Derek Jeter. And look, real quick, we can get to the football, but
Yes.
This is what makes this so special is because Derek Jeter literally played in the place where if you walk outside of your house and trip and fall, it's going to make headline news. Yeah. Derek Jeter wasn't a recluse, and he wasn't somebody who stayed in his house all the time. But he never made one headline for any sort of scandalous behavior. And we really never had the curtain peeled back on Derek Jeter and his life. And that's what we're going to get into. And the juicy stuff about what really happened with him and Alex Rodriguez, which you don't have to be a Yankee fan to want to know what really happened between those two. So there's my spiel.
Jeter is one of those guys who just somehow nothing ever came out about him. And playing in New York, I mean, Randy Johnson was there for 4 minutes and the media annoyed him. And Jason, listen, this is our podcast. If we want to talk Derek Jeter, we'll talk Derek Jeter.
No, it's all right. I'm excited. I've done some research for O-line, so
we're gonna transfer from the beauty of baseball to the beauty of the 49ers offensive line. Yes, we are here to preview the big uglies for the San Francisco 49ers. And I was looking at the roster. Did you know they have 15 offensive linemen on the roster right now?
Yeah, and that's the thing is a lot of the, I guess, hesitance towards the offensive line. People say, well, they're not deep. Well, they are deep with bodies. Yes. You just don't know what those bodies will do. And that's, I think, what the hesitance is. You can't say that they don't have options because they do. They're just unknown options in that way.
Jason, I know people are dying to know the 15 names, so I'll list them for you real quick. We got Trent Williams, Mike McGlinchey, Daniel Brunskill, Justin School, Colton McKivitz, Aaron Banks, Jake Brendel, Jalen Moore, Spencer Burford, Nick Zackel, Keaton Sunderland, Sam Schuleter, Donovan West, Jason Poe, Alfredo Gutierrez. There's the list. There's 15 of them. Got to get down. I mean, they'll get down to like 7, 8, whatever the number is. But obviously, we are here to talk about the five starters, because Jason Aponte, out of all the positions we've talked about so far, all the questions, you know, we could be talking about the safeties and the question about who's starting at strong safety, who is the slot corner, who's this, who's that. This is the biggest who's this, who's that question of this, because we still, I mean, I guess we could say Aaron Banks likely is locked up, the left guard spot, whatever locked up looks like on July 18th, Jason.
He's the front runner.
But there's an argument to be made that we do not know about 60% of this starting group. And there's another argument to be made that we don't really know about 80% of it, because Trent Williams is the only absolute on this offensive line. Mike McGlinchey's going to be the starter, but that the injury question is going to exist with him now because of the extent of his injury. So yes, I'm leaning towards the 60% solved, but the McGlinchey could be a bit of a question if health comes up, right? And Jason, I know you got amazing McGlinchey stats coming up here, and I'm excited.
Right. What I was going to say is less about that. Is we know what Daniel Brunskill is, and I can't wait till we get to his portion. We know what Danny Brunskill is. We don't know. So there's 3 of the 5 that we don't necessarily know at this point.
Yes,
that would be the best way I think to describe.
Not a math guy. I got my percentages wrong. I got a little excited. 40% unsolved right now. We know what the right guard is as well. I'm off. I'm being silly. My bad. Not a math guy, guys. This is a football podcast. We don't need to know numbers. I just wanted to start. We don't need to spend too long talking about him, Jason, because he is the absolute. We know how good he is, Trent Williams. I just wanted to go over his numbers with the Niners because they're stupid. They're insane. He's played 1,013 pass plays in 2 years with the 49ers. 5 sacks allowed, 10 hits allowed, 20 hurries allowed, 35 pressures allowed. And just to give you an idea for the percentage, people, that's 3.5% of all pass snaps that Trent Williams is in on. No pressure or have pressures. 98% of the time, he does not allow a pressure. That's how good this man is. And oh, by the way, his run, he's might be a better run blocker than a pass blocker. If you just want to go, there's not a lot of run stats to go off of, Jason. I just looked at the PFF grades, which I know we have our qualms about them, but hey, it's a quick way to look at it to get an idea. 91.8 run block grade in 2020, 97.9 run block grade in 2021. And since we're talking Madden ratings, the first ever 99 overall offensive lineman in Madden history. I don't know what else to really say about him. I just wanted to make sure before we talk about the serious stuff, just wanted to talk about how good Trent Williams is.
Yeah, and then when you think about the one game that he actually missed in the regular season, Colton McKivitz steps in and played admirably in that Rams game as well, too. Didn't really give up too much as well. I know we were all nervous at this point, but that has been the one constant. And look, this is no disrespect to Joe Staley. But if you would have told me moving on from Joe Staley, you would be able to upgrade the position somehow, it's what the 49ers did. And they literally got him for a 3rd-round pick on the second day that they also added Brandon Ayuk to the team. And it's just insane to think about his journey, the cancer bout. I implore you guys to watch the documentary. But, yeah, I'm very big on giving players their flowers while they're here instead of waiting for something to happen where they're not playing anymore. No. I enjoy watching Trent Williams destroy grown men every single time that he's out there on the field, and you 49er fans need to cherish it because it's not going to happen forever.
I mean, what was the highlight from his first game against Arizona? The one where he just plowed through the linebacker? Like, that was his first, 15 minutes with the 49ers, just absolute insanity. We love him. And I was thinking today, I don't know why I had this thought, and I know football doesn't do it like this, but when Trent Williams goes to the Hall of Fame, because he's going to be a Hall of Famer, football doesn't do it. It's a dumb baseball thing of what logo's the hat going to have. Mm-hmm. I mean, we're only 2 years in with Trent Williams, and the players get to pick, and I think that's an important thing. I know his time with Washington wasn't great. At what point does it become in the conversation? He's going in as a Niner. He's been so good with the Niners already, and as I said, I think a large part of it has to do with kind of the tumultuous time in Washington too. When do you think he considers San Francisco would be the team I'm going in with? That's how good he's been, I guess.
It's very possible this is his last contract. If on this last contract he continues to play this well and the 49ers win a Super Bowl, that's when you start making the argument for sure, especially when you consider who he would replace, right? Again, the 49ers upgraded from a Hall of Fame left tackle. That's insane, man. That's really insane.
Yeah, to go from a Hall of Famer to the best left tackle in the NFL, not easy to do. John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan, hey, they did that casually. Yeah. I remember being stressed about that pick because who was the guy available? It was the Tampa Bay guy.
It was Wirfs.
It was Wirfs, yes, and it was okay. Well, they could take Wirfs here. They didn't, and people were like, okay, well, maybe he's staying. And then no, they just traded a 3rd-round pick for Trent Williams. Whatever, no biggie. Who cares, man?
Right.
But that's the absolute. We're done. There's Trent Williams. He's very good. We knew that. That's the easy part of this conversation. Let's shift to the right side of the line.
Okay.
I think it's very easy to say, Jason, that this podcast, we like to say we're pro players. I think it's safe to say that we're a pro Mike McGlinchey podcast. We think he's a very good right tackle, especially when it comes to the run game. And what he does for this offensive line can't be slept on. Yes, there's a lot of naysayers, and I know a big thing what Jason's going to go into is try and myth bust a little bit with what was talked about with the guy who replaced him last year in Tom Compton and all that. So Jason, I wanted to get to McGlinchey just to let you go because I know you have some great stuff here.
Yeah, I do. So again, I think a lot of the discussion around Mike McGlinchey is, well, he blows blocks at a big time. Okay, I would definitely say that's fair. But then to toss away what he did the entire game and then put it all on him at the end of the game, well, you can do that with a lot of players. There's times when the best of players have their moments. And again, don't get it twisted. Mike McGlinchey, I'm not here to tell you that Mike McGlinchey is one of the best right tackles in football. I am here to tell you that he is overly hated. I think that it's gotten out of control. And I don't need to use PFF grades because those are largely subjective, even though we can use PFF grades for Trent Williams because that fits my narrative. And that hashtag fits my narrative.
Hashtag fits my. I mean, it's everybody's narrative that he's good. So I hope that's not a narrative, but yeah.
Right. And then I think that a lot of the McGlinchey slander has gotten out of control because Tom Compton was rated as the #1 run blocking right tackle, which was what Mike McGlinchey was brought here for. And the things that he needed to improve on were pass blocking. So I think that it's gotten louder and louder as you go on. Like, oh, well, look, they threw Tom Compton in and look at the run game and look at how he's graded, but then when a 49er player is negatively graded, it's burned PFF down. But again, hashtag doesn't fit my narrative. Okay. So I've got numbers here, and this is the way that it should be broken down, okay? We all know Mike McGlinchey played 8 games. He had 466 offensive snaps. Now, offensive snaps are run blocking, pass blocking, everything that's in there, okay? Now, what the number you really should be looking at is 256 allowed pressure opportunities. And the way that that's defined is plays that aren't kneel downs, spikes, anything like that. Pure pass blocking reps is the best way to explain it, okay? 256 pass blocking reps. That's what we're going to call it, okay? 2 sacks allowed, 3 quarterback hits, 8 hurries, and 13 pressures in 256 pass blocking reps. Tom Compton played 743 offensive reps, and he had 369 pass blocking reps. So 2 things I want to point out. One is clearly Tom Compton played more games, 13, because of when he also, was sprinkled in here and there. But it was clear that the shift was much more run heavy when Tom Compton was there because you don't want to leave him out there pass blocking. So there was a shift in the way you do things. Okay. Now, 369 pass blocking reps, which is, by my calculations, 113 more, and Tom Compton played 5 more games. So that's basically what, 20, 25 per, something like that in that area per game? Okay. So Tom Compton, in that time, with 113 extra pass blocking reps, tripled Mike McGlinchey's sack total with 6 allowed. Same amount of quarterback hits, and he had 18 pressures to Mike's 8. The last thing 18 hurries, to Mike's 8. The last thing I want to point out is pressures allowed. 13-27 for Tom Compton. So what does it all mean? Obviously, when you have more snaps, you're going to have more opportunities for sacks and hits and hurries because you're out there more. But I want to go by an average, and I think this is the best way to explain it. If you go by the number of pass blocking reps, Mike McGlinchey allowed 1 sack for every 128 reps. Think about how many reps are in a game in terms of offensive snaps. You're looking at about 50, 60 sometimes, right? Let's just say there's 30 per game. That's actually really good. That means 1 every 4 games for Mike McGlinchey, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Tom Compton allowed 1 every 61.5 reps. That's 1 per game. You're going to get Tom Compton once a game for that. Why am I saying all this? Am I here trying to explain that Mike McGlinchey is this world beater right tackle? I don't think so. What I think I'm talking about is it's gotten a little too loud. And I think that he actually, and look, let's do PFF grades, right? Just to throw this on there, right? Like this isn't going to help my point because even though it does go in my favor, I just want to explain to you guys that the PFF grades are subjective. But 70 grade for Mike McGlinchey, 64.6 for Tom Compton, 89.5 run blocking for Tom Compton, 63.8 run blocking. Overall, Tom Compton was averaged his offensive grade, 79.9. Mike McGlinchey, 69. That's a nice number, 0.8. So it's less about me trying to explain to you that Mike McGlinchey is this world beater and more about the slander's a little too loud. And where people say, well, you can throw anybody there. It can't be worse. Oh, it can be worse. And it was worse for many stretches. Now, thank you, Tom Compton, for your service. And I think that what he was thrown into is something that needs to be applauded. But my goodness, man, when you look at these numbers, if you would have listened to 49er fans and what they said about Tom Compton, Mike McGlinchey last year, you would have thought Mike McGlinchey was Tom Compton. Yeah. And that's just the part that I have an issue with. Andrew, do you have anything that you want to add here while I'm throwing out all these numbers like a nerd?
I love numbers. I'm a big number guy. I think it's the easiest way to look at things and understand. But I think what didn't help is Compton did have a couple of decent block games or run games to start. And I think that's really what got the attention. But it kind of like, not to throw him under the bus for no reason, but kind of like Ambry Thomas, where as the season went, the more they got on the field and more they saw, they started the productivity kind of took a step down. Tom Compton definitely had that, but now he's in Denver. So I mean, he got a contract out of it, so that's good. But with Mike McGlinchey, the slander on him, I don't want to call it slander, but there's the negative on talk on him. Absolutely, Jason, I agree with it. It's gotten a little too loud for my liking. And to me, it's a large part of it is, he's not the sexiest of right tackles. He's not going to have any of those big Trent Williams-esque blocks and all that. He's not going to do that. But what seems to get shown the most with him is those bad reps that you're talking about. And it just seems that there isn't that equal balance of like, here's a good rep for Mike McGlinchey. Here's a bad one, because it's so much easier to see what a bad rep from Mike McGlinchey looks like than a good one is. And I'm not trying to say I'm a tape guy by any stretch of the mean yet. I'm working on it. I'm trying to understand more what I'm getting. But when you see things like when Brad, like shout out Brad, he's the offensive line guy on 49ers Twitter, when he posts things of here's how good Mike McGlinchey looks on this play, it's really intricate having to explain what they have to do, what they have, where he's supposed to be. And when there's a bad rep, that gets those thousands of retweets or thousands of likes, it's pretty obvious to see where he messed up. So what's easier to see is the mess up where he's obviously getting blown up, or the 5, 6, 7 plays every game where it's like, well, here's the intricacy of why this was a good run rep from him. And I think that's where, if we could make a flashy way of making run block look good, like I think that would be the easiest way to talk about Mike McGlinchey and show him off, because it would be flashy. You could see it. But run blocking is you have to be a run blocking guy to understand how exciting it is. And hey, we got one of those guys, Brad Graham, pretty exciting, right? Who could tell us that stuff. So I think that's where the disconnect is. Right.
And, one more thing before we take this donation from Invading Robots is that's the problem, right? Is people will magnify this blown up sack, but they won't know what's the protection. And Brett Rumbeck is another guy who is very good at telling us, okay, this is scat. This is where he steps out. This is where he's supposed to go. Everybody's just like, well, he whiffed on this. Well, what if his responsibility was to take the inside guy? And that's the one thing that I think is a little bit lost in this McGlinchey discussion is him and Daniel Brunskill are so skilled in passing off stunts with each other. They nearly didn't miss any of them. And I think that they're both very good at knowing what's coming. They work very well together. And we'll get to Brunskill too, because I have a little bit of a spiel on him too, because I think it's getting a little out of hand with him as well too. But it's more to the position than just saying, man, he got his ass whipped right there. Well, why did he? Was he pushed out? And then sometimes you look at the guy who did it, and it's like, well, that's Chandler Jones. Well, that's Von Miller. Well, that's, so again, that needs to be in there. There's so little nuance when it comes to just showing one play of a game, especially when you can't talk about the plays that led up to that, because I can pull plays and say, well, they shouldn't have been in that position in the fourth quarter because this person on defense missed this, or this interception happened here, right? So you can play that game all day when it comes to those things. There just needs to be a little bit more nuance and context to the discussion around Mike McGlinchey before you can just, flat out say he's been bad or he's blowing blocks at big times. I think it's a little bit more to that. So Invading Robots says, hey, my dudes, appreciate the intelligent content. I'm not a big X and O guy, but I learned things listening to you guys. Thank you. That means a lot. Really appreciate those kind words, man. Let's get to this one from Gammon. Mod Squad in the building. At Andrew, I commend your bravery to try and say tumultuous 10-letter word without rehearsal. As mod, it is my duty to keep you to 7 letters or fewer. Okay. You heard the man, Andrew.
I'll do my best. So, like, is it just words? Because we've said McGlinchey a lot, and that's like 13 letters. I don't know how many it is. I'm just eyeballing it. It's 10 letters, so that's a big word. So I don't know. Mm-hmm. Is that allowed, or is it just word? I'll work on that.
Yeah, so, I mean, I'm not sure. You got to ask Gavin, but go for it.
We'll make it work. So there's the two more positive feeling parts of the offensive line, I think. Is McGlinchey still a question mark? Sure. Yes, because the injury he had, it's not great. And if you have more stats before I move, Jason, go ahead. Say it now before I change.
No, it depends on where you're going to go. If we're going to move over from McGlinchey over to Brunskill, then I'm ready to go with that.
That's where I was going to, because I guess I'm moving in the order of how sure we're feeling about it. Mike, with Trent Williams being one, we feel decent about McGlinchey. We feel fine about Brunskill. And Jason, I'll let you get to your Brunskill point here. But Daniel Brunskill, he's been that guy for 2 years now. He's done a little bit of everything on the offensive line. He found his home at right guard last year. Half of his snaps in 2020 were at center, half was at right guard. 100% of his snaps last year was at that right guard position. And I don't know if you heard this, Jason, but he's the Aaron Donald stopper. So tell me all the good things about Daniel Brunskill.
First of all, before I dive into any numbers, I think that the way players are viewed at times are skewed. You can't look at Daniel Brunskill in the way that you looked at a high drafted right guard and say, man, he's not that good. Well, Daniel Brunskill was playing in the USFL, and the 49ers have had him for 2 seasons playing as solid as it gets. Find me another franchise that is able to find a reclamation project like that and get him to play as well as he has. That's the part that is a little weird. The skewing of his perception is looking at Daniel Brunskill in the way that you view one of the high right guards in the league, like the top of the top. What the 49ers have done with Daniel Brunskill, getting him from the USL, he was drafted by the Atlanta Falcons, is so commendable, and is another reason that while we applaud draft picks and we applaud good trades and things like that, there's so many contributors on this team that were either undrafted, found in the USFL, or just like left on the scrap heap that the 49ers have turned into contributors. So again, with Daniel Brunskill, it's all, well, we're not that good at right guard. Well, when you consider where you found this right guard, I think you're getting a ton of production. You're getting a ton of value. The guy doesn't miss games. He's on the field all the time. Sure, is he the best? I'm not going to say that. No. But what you've gotten from him and where you got him from is something that needs to be celebrated by this front office. You have to, because for every time that we give them shit, including myself, about misses on draft picks or these signings, and you play Josh Norman, all these games and things like that. What they got out of Daniel Brunskill these last 2 years, the guy played all 20 games. And these are some of the numbers. 1,259 snaps, 641 pass blocking reps. He had one less sack allowed than Tom Compton, with almost 300 more. Okay. Now, here's where I think a lot of people's problem is. It's 5 sacks. He allowed 6 hits, and Compton allowed 3. Okay. But again, he goes up against Aaron Donald twice a year. Aaron Donald does move around, right? So, I mean, there is context to that as well. And the Daniel Brunskill, Aaron Donald thing is so funny to me, because you could never think of another player that, Aaron Donald's the most dominating player in the league. I think I can fairly say that. Oh, you know what? Maybe it's Trent Williams, but Aaron Donald's the most defensively dominant player. And for some reason, Daniel Brunskill doesn't have any problem holding him at bay. And that's the best way I could put it. I'm not going to say dominate, because Aaron Donald will hear this and take that personally, and I don't want to put Daniel Brunskill in that position. But I love the meme. And I think it's funny. Sorry.
I mean, if we're just looking at 2021, eyeballing the numbers, 0 sacks allowed, 2 hurries allowed, 2 pressures allowed in 2 games against the Rams. So that's, 1 pressure, 1 hurry per game against Aaron Donald. And I know it's kind of a meme and it's a joke, but I don't know what else to say other than it's a thing at this point, right? It's the fun thing to say. With Daniel Brunskill, though, I think you've hit the nail on perfectly, Jason, is Yeah, is it the sexiest name? No, it's not. Like, there's plenty of other better right guards in the NFL, but he's just good enough to be a consistent NFL starter. Like, it's not the sexiest name, but I feel fine week in and week out with Daniel Brunskill there. Yes, is there going to be ups and downs? Absolutely. I think a lot of offensive line spots are going to have that this year. I feel like with the point, especially with the consistency he's shown, he's just fine enough, and that's all it needs to be. Is they don't need anything amazing. And I think the thing that Shanahan likes to do is he likes to have the right side of the line being the run side, the stronger run side, and that's what Brunskill is. And he's just good enough in the pass game to make it work. So, just to wrap up the Brunskill conversation, yeah, it could be better, but he's good enough, and he's going to make it work.
Right. And look, here's where the numbers look bad. 30 hurries allowed, 41 pressures. That's not good. But again, so much of the offensive line is cohesiveness. And I think that, we're going to swing over to the other side. I think that the reason that there's people who aren't nearly as concerned, because I think we're all concerned in one way or another about this offensive line, mainly because there's 3 question marks. And one of those question marks has to do with health more than it does. Mike McGlinchey gives you baseline. You know exactly what you're getting from him. But he's coming off of this injury. We spoke with the doc, and I implore you guys to go look back at that episode and what he talked about in saying that the one thing that Mike really does well is the thing that he may struggle with, but he'll actually be fine because he'll be able to anchor in pass blocking. So who knows? But again, that's a bit of a question mark, so we have to figure that out. But there's so much of cohesiveness, understanding your assignment, understanding what the guy next to you is about to do. And McGlinchey and Brunskill are great at understanding, picking up stunts, knowing what they want to do. When guys are sending extra rushers, who's going to get in there? Now, does McGlinchey maybe get popped on his back? Okay, but he knew exactly where to be. I found that there was a lot of times that Tom Compton was just getting beat one-on-one like a drum, like bad. And there was times where he missed stunts. And even when Jalen Moore played a little bit, that was a little bit of his issue due to inexperience. So there's context behind all of it. Obviously, when you look at those raw numbers, 33 hurries and 41 pressures, easily leading the team. But he plays every single game, where you got him, and all of those things should matter. And also who was right to the right of him, and maybe you're trying to overcompensate, things like that. It's just, again, I'm not nearly as worried about the right side. The only thing I'm worried about is what percentage of Mike McGlinchey are we getting? 65%, 70%, 80%, 90%. And what does that percentage look like when you play? I don't think we have any doubt that Mike McGlinchey is going to play, but what's the product on the field going to look like, I think, is the question. So I just wanted to get that out about Daniel Brunskill because I think it's unfair. Look, if you want to judge Mike McGlinchey because he was the number 9 overall pick, that's much more fair than judging Daniel Brunskill for being the USFL guy that he was and picked up off the scrap heap. Like, that's a lot more fair. I don't necessarily agree with judging players like that because we're going to go by my old adage. He didn't draft himself there. And I understand you probably wanted Derwin James or someone else. I get that. But at the same time, if you want to throw that on McGlinchey, like, dude, you were the number 9 overall pick. That's much more fair than the way that you guys judge Daniel Brunskill, who was just fresh off the USFL. So I guess that's the best way I could put it.
So Daniel Brunskill, this is the last part of the offensive line where we're going to be talking in absolutes almost, and in terms of kind of easy to talk about because going into the regular season, it's going to be Williams, it's going to be McGlinchey if he's healthy, and it's going to be Brunskill if he's healthy, and he's no reason he shouldn't be. He's going to be the right guard. Now the conversation gets a little tougher because we don't have much to go off of. Aaron Banks expected to be the left guard of the San Francisco 49ers right now. Probably, most likely, I don't see why he wouldn't be at this point because I don't think I can necessarily think of somebody else who would be at this point because Justin School, but he's more of an outside right side of the line guy they've used. Colton McKivitt's kind of the same thing. Aaron Banks is probably your left guard. So, Jason, what do you expect from Aaron Banks and what will be his quote-unquote second year, but really kind of like Trey Lance, kind of his first season in the NFL because he's the first time being the everyday guy?
Well, let me put a positive spin on this for the people that are worried. I think that the plan overall was Aaron Banks to be paired with Trey Lance. Kyle Shanahan said that he wanted to use him more as well, too. So there gives you your confidence right there. Left guard is his natural position. And I think that we're going to see a little bit more of inside zone in this run game with Trey Lance, maybe even Trey Sermon, and also the addition of Anthony Lynn. which I want to point out is something that's a nice little wrinkle, right? Mike McDaniel's not here anymore. I think they know what they want to do with outside zone. They want to get linebackers flowing to the wrong spot so you can get a cutback lane the other way. I think that Mike McDaniel has been incredible in creating angles, helping add these little wrinkles to Kyle Shanahan's run game. Now the wrinkles are going to come from Anthony Lynn, who will be running much more inside. And especially when you consider Ty Davis-Price, that type of, it feels like there's a little bit of a changing of the guard in terms of that where, well, not a changing of the guard. You'll just see a little bit more of a shift to that. And I think Aaron Banks fits that really well. So what's going to happen? Let's talk about cohesiveness. We just said that I love what Brunskill and McGlinchey do together. I don't think that you can find a better guy on your left side to be there with who's going to help you out with things than Trent Williams. So positive spin, guys, all of those things in there. But again, there's always that we don't know, and you still have to see it on the field portion of it. So, Andrew, I'll let you talk there. But there's my positive part on that.
Let me put my positive part on it, Jason. There was a lot of questions on Aaron Banks last year. I believe the Niners drafted him in the second round. He was a very heavily talked about draft pick because guys like Asante Samuel, who just great rookie year, were taken after him. People really wanted Asante Samuel and all that stuff. But the Niners take Aaron Banks. He comes out. He plays, I believe, right guard in the preseason, right guard or right tackle. I forget exactly. He's on the right side of the line, and he struggles, and we don't see him. Most of last year, I think he got some snaps against Jacksonville, if I believe correctly.
And he struggled, and they replaced him. He struggled with not stopping stunts, being beat here and there. Like that. That's going to come with time, though. That's going to come with time and reps. And again, he wasn't playing next to Trent in that game. So that's another thing we want to point out there.
But this is where I'll put the positive spin. And we've had this conversation, Jason. If you go way back when the week 1 of 2021, Don Burr, if he's here, when we were previewing the game, we talked about the specific importance of Penei Sewell. And the original plan with the Lions was whoever their left tackle was at the time was going to play left tackle. They were going to kick Sewell to the right tackle. We talked about how that's not an easy thing to do. Ended up that Sewell got to play left tackle, and he was very good last year. Aaron Banks played on the left side in college. That is his spot. That is his side. So now you're taking him from the right side where he looked very uncomfortable last year. You're putting him on a side that he's comfortable with. And as we said, this is not Madden, guys. I'm beating up on Madden today. I'm sorry. But this is not Madden. This isn't – they don't have the same ratings on each side. There's a lot of little – and I can't explain it to you. Go ask Brad. Brad will probably tell you how hard it is to switch the sides. He's going to be on his comfortable side with, oh, by the way, the best left tackle in NFL history on his side, as Jason said. So, yeah, there's my positivity. He's going back to the side he played in college, the side he's most comfortable on, the side that made him a second-round pick in the NFL.
Yeah, and when you consider he's going to be coached up, Chris Forrester has done a really good job with these guys. And, you know, the shift towards inside zone with Anthony Lynn, with Trey Lance, things like that. I think one of the things that a lot of people have questions about, and this is just something we should touch on with the offensive line in general, is being able to block for a different style quarterback. Okay, Jimmy Garoppolo balls out 2 seconds, right? Like you're pass blocking. Those are the type of things. Now you have a quarterback who, if things are breaking down, you've got to continue to block because he can make things happen with his legs. I think a lot of people are skeptical about that as well, and whether they can make that shift, because I think you saw a lot of that in Arizona. There were a lot of holding calls, but that wasn't necessarily because guys were getting whipped. I mean, J.J. Watt had himself a game, but they weren't necessarily getting whipped every time. They're just not used to that style of play when the quarterback can get the ball, stand back there for 2 seconds, not like what he sees, and then start scrambling around, avoiding rushers and things like that. Now you're trying to block. Now you're trying to, protect your quarterback. It's a completely different style. So I think that's something that, again, there might be some bumps and bruises early on, but there's a lot of reasons why that would be. One part would be inexperience on a lot of these guys' parts. The other part would be this quarterback is going to be completely different to block for. So,
and you took one of my conversation points for after it, because it's totally fine, because we were going to get to it at some point. Let's get to it now. Is I think in a way, especially when those bumps and bruises get out of the way of learning what it is with a mobile quarterback. In theory, and this is all in theory, Jason, Trey Lance should be able to make this offensive line better because of his ability to extend plays. Because, yes, Jimmy Garoppolo, if you if he had more than 3 seconds and the ball wasn't out, I mean, more often than not, it's I don't have the numbers in front of me. I'm sorry, but like I would assume with Jimmy Garoppolo, who didn't move much, I don't think that's a secret. It would end in a sack if he didn't get the ball out of his hands within 3-4 seconds. Now, this internal timer, and as you said, Jason, there is going to be bumps and bruises. This is a totally different style, but once we get past that, ideally in the preseason, right? That's why those 3 games are there, right? We figure things out then. That 2-second timer might extend to 3. That 2-second timer might extend to 4 and sometimes 5, 6 because Trey Lance is moving. So I do think you make that point, Jason, of what Trey Lance can do for this offensive line. And I think there's hope that, there's a downside to this offensive line. There's a lot of people down on this offensive line, but you need to remember they're likely 99% sure because Jimmy Garoppolo's still on this roster, and I don't know what's going to happen in 2 months. Who knows, man? It's not going to happen, but who knows? Crazier things have happened. It should be easier on them because they're not going to have to block for Garoppolo. They're blocking for a guy who can take care of himself a little bit in the pocket and in the backfield.
Yeah, and that's the exciting part is everything doesn't have to be so much the timing. Like Kyle Shanahan's got to loosen his grip a little bit on the timing thing. And just, I think RG3 said it perfectly. He said something that I'm glad he said it because I don't want to have to be the first person to say it. Kyle Shanahan's a little bit of a control freak, and I think we all agree with that. And I think that now he's got to loosen that up a little bit. And that should make him feel better because he doesn't have to be perfect necessarily on every single play,
and we're not even asking him to like take the tie off and take the top button off. I'm just asking for like a little loosen of the tie. Like just let Trey use his athleticism, let him use that athletic ability and see what he can do because I think that's
everything that Kyle Shanahan wants out of his quarterback early on is I've called the perfect play, execute it this way. Yes. Well, now, Kyle Shanahan, you have a guy that when it's not blocked up and there's a free rusher, the guy can make a play with his legs and bail you out.
You've extended that margin of error.
Right.
Like that's all he's done.
This isn't Nick Mullins with the guy wide open and he's got to get the ball to him. And if he doesn't, then the play's over. Well, Trey sees it. He doesn't like it. He can actually extend the play and bail you out if the protection isn't there. If they do something on defense that coach didn't see, so that's what I mean about like loosen up, like let Trey go, let him go because he's gonna do things for you that you necessarily don't need to happen perfectly. Like Garoppolo's got to get the ball out in 2 seconds. Like he would literally tell Jimmy on the sideline, throw it to this guy, he's gonna be open. But then when Jimmy doesn't like what he sees and he throws it and it turns into an interception, Kyle's yelling at him. So I will say that he needs to like loosen it up for the kid. So
Marketing Pro, hey, good to see you back. Expo Hat is unsure about Trey. I'm unsure about things I don't know. So that's all it really is. I'm excited. I'll tell you that much. That's exciting. I'm excited for Trey Lance. Yeah, not to make the offensive line conversation about Trey Lance, but I think that's part of the conversation. So I'm happy we touched on it. The last spot we haven't talked about, another spot that I feel like is getting a little bit of unfair heat. Center spot, it's looking like it's going to be Jake Brendel. I think that's the likeliest thing. And I guess my biggest thing about him at center is Kyle Shanahan obviously likes what's inside his center's head more than the physical assets. Alex Mack was great. Alex Mack was a very good center for the 49ers, but I think a big reason why he was brought over was because of what goes on in between his head. And obviously he had time with Kyle Shanahan in Atlanta. Shanahan has that level of comfort. And I'm not a guy to question Kyle Shanahan, Jason. I don't think we've done it too often. If he's going to tell me that this guy is the guy for center, and yes, Jason, I understand the JC Treader thing's still out there, and who knows, he might be the center if Jimmy Garoppolo's gone because the Niners can't really make too many moves right now until that contract's gone and maybe JC Treader's here. I'm just talking about what I know. Jake Brendel is here. I got to trust it for now. That's all. The numbers, take him as you may. He's been in the NFL for 4 years, 3 with Miami. He missed 2019 and 2020. He was with the Niners last year. 250 career snaps, only 166 of them at center, and 136 career pass opportunities, 0 sacks allowed, 1 hit allowed, 1 hurried, 2 pressures. I mean, if you go 136 pass opportunities by Jason Scale, that's like 6 games, give or take. That's all we have. That's all we know. It's unsure. In Kyle Shanahan, I trust, though, Jason Aponte. I've said it. We are only Shans. let's let it ride out and see what happens.
Yeah, and the thing is this. Kyle Shanahan speaks very highly of him. That's really good because Coach rarely says anything nice about anybody, including himself. So, I mean, you love to hear that. Here's the thing. The 49ers have been in flux largely at center. When Weston Richburg was there, who was handpicked by Kyle Shanahan off of injury, this offense was humming. Ben Garland stepped in and he played admirably. But you see 2020 when Hornets Grasu has to take many snaps and how important this center position is. Alex Mack provides stability immediately. So no pressure, Brundle, but the 49ers have been searching for their guy going forward. Weston Richburg, unfortunately, his career was cut short because of that injury. And Alex Mack, hey, he got married. He said, I want to go home. Good for you, buddy. But the 49ers are kind of shuffling here. So they need Jake Brundle to work. So here's some things that I want to give that are positive. Let's throw in the fact that Kyle loves him, the way that he's been talking. The Chris Forrester connection, offensive line coach for the 49ers. They're both together in Miami. So that is something that they have a good rapport and everything as well. Mm-hmm. And Trey Lance last year took many snaps with Jake Brendel. I would say his rapport is better with Jake Brendel than it ever was with Alex Mack. So again, are there question marks? For sure. But when you listen to the way that they talk about Brendel, we're going to find out really soon because camp is starting in 9 days. Oh, my God. We're going to find out pretty quickly how this looks. But I think that the confidence that they're showing in him, because it always sounds like this was the plan. J.C. Treader was always something that was floated out there by us, but it didn't necessarily feel like the 49ers were ever in on anything like that. So, again, I'm going to use their confidence as a way to get confident myself before things start get rolling. So, for me, it felt like Jake Brendel was always the guy, always. Now, Donovan West is here. Jason Poe can play center. I think Donovan West is a guy that they're looking at for the future. Many 49er fans had him mocked in the 4th round. The 49ers get him undrafted. They give him a contract that is guaranteed money. Kind of a clue in for me that I think he makes his 53. But if Jake Brendel can be Weston Richburg level, I don't know about Alex Mack. That's tough.
No, that's a high bar.
That's very tough. But if Jake Brendel can establish that rapport and continue that rapport with Trey Lance and stay healthy and show some continuity, again, it's all going to be cohesiveness and how much they play together. I'm not nearly as worried about Jake Brendel, or I don't have as many questions about Jake Brendel more than I have about what percentage of Mike McGlinchey are we getting, and can Aaron Banks step in? And the person that Aaron Banks is stepping in for is Laken Tomlinson.
Yes.
Like, that is a dude, man. Like, his numbers are sparkling. And you want to talk about durability. The guy never missed a snap, and he was great. So I think that those are the two biggest questions for myself. But I'm not nearly as concerned with Brendel as I am with the development of Banks.
Yeah, I think the center spot, like, as a whole, I'm not too concerned. I know how important it is for Shanahan's offense, and I think that's why I err on the side of, if that's who Shanahan trusts, and that's who I trust for now, obviously, until we see it on the field, and maybe changes my mind. I don't know yet. As I said, I can't tell you definite things about the things I don't know, because nobody knows what Jake Brendel is. I think the biggest question mark is definitely Aaron Banks and that left guard and how that's going to work. I think you're spot on with that. The offensive line is such an interesting position just as a whole for the 49ers, because it feels like Trent Williams can be that one great almost eraser. He makes the offensive line as a whole better. And I think it's obviously, he makes the left guard the most best. That's great English here. Center, the most better, right? Great English for the pocket, but you know what I mean. And I think Mike McGlinchey can be that guy where if he is playing at the best of his ability, he's going to make the right guard better. And you mentioned the time with Brunskill and McGlinchey and how good they've been together. And you just got to hope that it holds together and it can stay healthy. I think that's the key too, is it's staying healthy, and it being Mike McGlinchey, because there has been issues with injuries in the past. It's kind of been one spot at a time, but it also had the issue of Mike McGlinchey, because McGlinchey has been hurt. I think 2 of his 4 seasons so far. This is his 5th-year option. So this is the year we need an answer for Mike McGlinchey, if he is the right tackle of the future, or if this is it for Mike McGlinchey. This is his make or break year. So that'll be another interesting thing to watch with this offensive line. Jason, do you have any final thoughts on the offensive line before we close the book on it?
No, again, I think that the questions are about performance and not necessarily depth, because there's a lot of depth. It's just the question marks about how do they contribute, can they contribute, and I think that's something that we're very close, and I'm getting super excited for. 9 more days, pads will be popping. It's going to be very fun. I can't wait to get out there, and I'll be out there Tuesday, right before the first practice on Wednesday.
So we'll have this conversation. Should I go Thursday or Monday?
Whenever you want. I'm going to be I can only stay for 5 practices. I'll be leaving on the 2nd. I've got to get back to Averly, but I'll be there for the first 5.
Okay. I'll figure out which one I'll be there, because I'll be there one of those days. The drive to Santa Clara is worth the hug I get from Jason Aponte. And then the Niners is just extra on top of that. So that's exciting.
And the electric content.
Hey man, if we pick the right day, which I don't see why we wouldn't, we might get our first ever podcast in the same room. So that's exciting. For the future though, right now, Jason, we have another podcast on Friday. I believe we are talking about, as picked by Rich Madrid, the linebackers, I believe.
Yeah, he pretty much threatened us. So
he pretty much threatened us, but Jason, I'm going to try and share my screen here. I think these are the positions we have left at this point. For next Monday, I threw special teams on there. I don't know why. So this is going to be what we're doing Monday. This is what our podcast is next Monday. Spin the wheel. You never know where it's going to land. Next Monday, we will be doing, oh my God.
You did that.
Are we doing special teams on Monday, or should I just get rid of that?
Let's do it. Let's have some fun. That's fun.
We'll have some special teams talk on Monday. I think we should save quarterback for last, because I think that's the one everybody's excited for. So the episode everybody's been excited for next Monday, Jason Aponte, Andrew Pasquini, Spirit Right Option Podcast, talking special teams. Probably be a shorter episode, because I think we're talking about 4 or 5 guys. It's going to be exciting. It's going to be fun. I can't wait. Maybe Rich Madrid on Friday. We haven't confirmed. If he's in the comments yelling at us to let him in, then Rich Madrid will be on the podcast on Friday.
It's either that or check your film access. Hey, shout out to Marketing Pro, man. You're all right, man. Yeah, we're gonna have a lot of fun this year.
We're gonna have a lot of fun. I believe Marketing Pro is a Rams fan. Shout out! It's gonna be fun. It's gonna be exciting. Jason Aponte, I hope you enjoy your 7 hours of commercial-free Derek Jeter content.
Wait, no, it's not 7 hours today. They're breaking it up daily.
Yeah, I know, but I tried to make the red zone reference, and it just didn't work. You saw right through it. Beautiful, beautiful. There he is. 49ers defense fears Cup. We'll end it on that. Jason Aponte, as always.
Let's go Niners, and thank God for training camp.
Thank God for training camp.
Welcome, everybody.
We are live.
My name is Jason Aponte.
I am Andrew Pasquini.
We're working. That's it. We're working over here. That's it. Let's go Niners.
Let's